Hi everyone, welcome to AstroTalk and Tea. My name is Kelsey and we are going to be talking today about Cancer season 2021. We're going to switch things up and do it a little bit differently this time, so hopefully this video will be a little shorter than some of my other ones. So Cancer season begins June 21st and runs through July 22nd. So as we always talk about in these videos, even if you don't have strong Cancer energy in your personal astrology chart, we're all swimming in the waves of Cancer's ocean for the next month or so. So how do we harness this energy? How do we make the most of it and use it to our advantage? And I have about 5 different suggestions for how we can do that. So the first of which is Cancer season is a great time to check in with family. This can be our biological family, or this can be our chosen family of friends or other supportive individuals. And it's just a really good time to check in with the important people in your life and just say, hey, like, how you doing? Are there ways that I can support you? Is there anything you need help with? You know, Cancer season is very much about nurturing and care. So thinking about how we can give that to the loving, important people in our lives. And at the same time, maybe it's you that needs a little bit of emotional support, physical support, something along those lines. So also, as you're checking in with others and showing up for them, then you can also communicate that that you need a little bit of love and support and TLC from others as well. The second thing during this season that you can do is develop really nurturing self-care practices. And I'm asking you not to just think about it and develop it and come up with an idea, but to really stick with it. Because I think that's the hardest part. You know, at the spring equinox, at the new calendar year, we're like, all right, this year I'm focusing on self-care, I'm focusing on me. You know, and then life gets busy and crazy, and self-care practices are the first thing that get thrown out the window, so to speak. So think about 1 or 2 small things, acts of self-care that would be easy to rotate into your daily routine. And I'm going to ask you to commit to that over this next month through July 22nd. See if you can really make those a priority in your life. Because I think if you can do that over the next month, there's a really good chance that those could become a sustainable habit for you. The third thing I'm going to suggest during Cancer season is at some point or multiple points, have a good, long, cathartic cry. And I know that might sound a little like, what? But I'm telling you, there's something to be said for just being in your home space or some other safe, supportive space and just letting it all out. So however that happens for you, I encourage you not to hold back, but to really let the emotion of this time move up and out of your body. Crying is my preferred way. If you have another way that you love to do that, that's great. But I'm going to stick with crying myself. The fourth thing I'm going to suggest during Cancer season is to organize your home space. Pay a little bit more attention to the place where you live, that you reside, and just take a look around. You know, does this space feel supportive? Does this space feel secure? Does it feel safe? Is it meeting my needs, you know, both physically and emotionally? And if the answer to those questions is no, then it's a really good time to take a look at, you know, what changes could you make there? Can you do a deep clean? Can you release certain things? Are there things you no longer use that you could donate or repurpose? You know, it's a really good time to focus in on that internal home space, that living space, and see what changes, if any, might need to be made there. And then the fifth thing I'm going to suggest for Cancer season sounds a little bit like it doesn't fit. It's the idea of being enterprising. And some people might say, oh, I thought Cancer was a very like internal, emotional time. And it is those things. But don't forget that Cancer energy, this sign of the zodiac, is also what we call a cardinal sign, which means that it is very strong. It is active. It has impetus and energy behind it. It can start things. So I think if there's a project or an idea or something you've been wanting to act on, this is a good time to do it. But the caveat is that in Cancer season, it has to feel emotionally and energetically aligned. If you don't feel emotionally tied to and excited by and supported by the mission or vision of your project, of your idea, then it's probably not a great time to be working on that. But if you do feel that connection, then I say go for it. In terms of practices for this season, when we think about yoga, breath work, meditation, I would highly recommend, in terms of breath work, keep it simple this month, and let it be breath work that brings steadiness and ease and emotional calm and relaxation. So I like, box breathing, where you're doing it to counts of 4. There's also a 3-part breath, belly, chest, and or belly, ribs, and upper chest. That's a great type of breath to investigate and practice if you're not familiar with it, because they're simple, they bring stability, and they help bring the emotions back into balance. When we think about meditation, I recommend looking for guided meditations that connect to 4th, heart chakra, anahata, or the sacral chakra, 2nd one. Because that's 2nd chakra is the emotional space, 4th chakra is the heart space, and there's a strong connection between those two, and Cancer season is really a beneficial time to explore the relationship there, and making sure that the energy is flowing well through both of those chakras. And in terms of yogic practices, I definitely recommend calming, relaxing practices like yoga nidra, restorative yoga, yin yoga, slowing it down, all that's great. But if you are going to do more hatha, vinyasa, or flow style practices, I think working on some gentle hip opening, lower belly opening, chest opening, kind of supporting, again, that heart and sacral space, all those types of poses and practices could be really supportive to you. In terms of working with stones or crystals, there's 2 that I recommend this season. The first is Lapis Lazuli, because it can be really good for helping us unlock and tap into our inner wisdom, our inner knowing. Cancer season is a psychic and intuitive time, because Cancer is one of the water signs of the zodiac. And so I think the more we can get in touch with our inner emotion, our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, the better we can operate in the world and make decisions. And then the second stone is Sunstone, which is really beautiful, one of my favorites. And I'm choosing this one because Sunstone can help to lift us out of depression, states of anxiety, or just like if we're stuck in this like loop of negative thinking, negative feedback. Sunstone can help to kind of lift us out and bring a little more levity and positivity into our lives. And then when we think about herbs for the season, I'm just going to recommend thinking about chamomile, because chamomile is just gentle, easy. I feel like it's calming, and it helps, again, to relax us if we do find ourselves like in a heightened emotional state or in a state of emotional burden or overwhelm. A nice cup of chamomile tea is just like breath of fresh air. So switching gears now and looking at the astrology of this season, some upcoming dates that you might want to mark on a calendar and just be aware of the energy that's happening on certain days or in certain weeks, so that we can, again, navigate situations with a little more ease, with a little more wisdom, and hopefully to navigate them towards better outcomes as well. So Cancer season is jam-packed this year, as was Gemini season, because we had those eclipses last month. But Cancer season, of course, started on June 21st with the summer solstice. The solstice is always the first day of Cancer season. And that was like a big influx of energy, because it's the longest day of light in the northern hemisphere. It kind of has this feeling of like apex or culmination energy. Because now the days will continue to get shorter between now and the winter solstice in December. So it's kind of like, it's the kickoff to the summer season. It's peak sun energy. I don't know. I felt a big influx of energy that day, and maybe you did too. So that happened on June 21st. Then the next day, on Tuesday, June 22nd, Mercury goes direct. So Mercury has been in retrograde in Gemini for several weeks now, and finally that is coming to an end, which is good for all of us. So things will still move slowly for the next week or so, but then by the week of June 28th, we should start to feel some forward motion happening again. It's also a really good time, hopefully during the Mercury retrograde, you took some time to review things, to research things, to kind of gather more information or better information perhaps on certain topics. And so now's the time where I think that information kind of becomes plain, or it will kind of coalesce, and you can use what you've learned to move forward, to make decisions, to start projects, whatever it might be. So Mercury goes direct, that's a great thing. And then on Thursday, June 24th, we have the first kind of major event that I would call Cancer season, which is the full moon in Capricorn. This full moon is going to be at 3 degrees of Capricorn, so just barely into the sign of Capricorn. And full moons are a time of culmination, of celebration, of release. And so generally speaking, when we think about what can we celebrate at a Capricorn full moon, I would say, number one, celebrating our achievements, our successes. So looking at, did you have goals that you had set in the past couple of weeks or months, and did you reach those goals? If so, great, give yourself a pat on the back. It's a good time to celebrate responsibilities, which sounds a little bit weird, but are there responsibilities that you carried out? Did you keep your nose to the grindstone and get something done? Did you commit to something? Did you keep your word? Those could all be things to celebrate at this time. And I think also looking at the culmination of things happening at work, are there some small wins at work that you can be proud of and feel good about? So that's good to focus on at the full moon. With the idea of release, there's a lot there to kind of unpack. So full moon in Capricorn could be a good time to release our dependence on tradition, our dependence on the way things always were or have been, releasing our dependence on rules and structures. It might be rules and structures that have always existed in our life, and therefore they're just a backdrop and we've accepted them the way that they are. So maybe it's a good time to release some of our hold or our dependence on those things to make room for something new. Additionally, Capricorn full moon can be about releasing our dependence on material things. And it can also be about letting go of our current definition of success or of achievement. It might be that now you've had some life experiences and the way that you used to define success is different now. So it might be time to let go of that old definition so that you can call in a new one that fits a little bit more with your life now. So those are kind of some general meanings of what we can celebrate and release at a full moon in Capricorn. But there's also some interesting specific astrological stuff happening. So this full moon is getting a sextile, which is a nice angle from the planet Jupiter. So there are some positives to that, but I will say one thing to watch out for is that Jupiter magnifies whatever it touches. It expands and grows things. So since full moons tend to be an emotional, tender kind of time, I think this Jupiter aspect is going to mean that our emotions are heightened by quite a bit, which can either be positive or negative depending on how we're feeling. So I think be careful, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, we might feel an impetus for a big emotional expression and release, and that might not necessarily be appropriate right at this time. So just observe how you're feeling, and if you feel super emotional and you're ready to all your emotions out, I would say hang on a day or two so that you can approach a conversation or an emotional release from a little bit of a calmer place. But that being said, the sextile from Jupiter, though, also means that we have an amazing opportunity for spiritual growth at this full moon. So if we are able to release our hold on material things and outdated traditions and, the way things always were, if we can start to not grip so tightly onto some of that stuff, I think we really have an opportunity to evolve ourselves in a spiritual sense. Just relating to kind of the idea of oneness, connection, this cosmic love type of idea. So that could be a really big benefit of the Jupiter affecting our full moon at this time. And the last thing to mention at this full moon kind of plays into what I said too about it being like an emotionally strong time. We've got just this, like, Mars is up here in the chart and Uranus is over here and Saturn's down here, and they're making this like really tough triangle, for lack of a better term. And what that means is it creates a lot of frustration, a lot of irritation, a lot of anger, because it's like, we want some things to stay the same and we want other things to change, and then Mars comes along and just makes us all hot and bothered about everything that we're experiencing. So that is happening. And at the same time, Venus and Pluto are doing this oppositional dance. So I just think there's going to be this feeling related to issues of relationships, related to power and control in relationships, or power and control in relation to money and finances. So those might be some topics that come up for you at this full moon. And while that might sound like, oh God, that's shitty and bad, there is a way out. Scorpio, leaning into Scorpio traits is a way to kind of counter some of this strong and frustrating energy we might be feeling. So what I mean by that is, Scorpio energy doesn't shy away from the darkness in oneself and in others. Scorpio energy is willing to look at their fears, face their fears head on, and start the work of tackling those fears. Scorpio energy is about being deep, connecting deeply with others, and sharing your truth with honesty and vulnerability, and then also allowing others to share their truth in the same way. So kind of leaning into some of those qualities, and then also realizing that Scorpio energy is very much about transformation and evolution. So knowing that whatever is releasing, whatever we have to let go of at this moon, it's a good thing, because it's making space for parts of our lives to transform so that we can continue to learn and grow and become the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So even though it's a heightened emotional time, there's also a lot of good that can come out of this full moon, as in the experiences that you have in the week of June 21st as well. So full moon, June 24th, big energy. Then the next day on June 25th, the planet Neptune is going to start moving retrograde. This is going to happen from June 25th until about mid-October of this year. And this happens every year. This is not like crazy or unexpected or anything like that. But the only reason I bring it up is because when a planet moves retrograde, its energy is more intense during that week or those couple days. So when Neptune's energy is more intense, it's beautiful in the sense that we can feel like a spiritual connection more in a stronger way at this time. So it's a good time to get out in nature, to meditate, to do the Tai Chi, the yoga, whatever your emotional, energetic, spiritual practices are. It's really good to engage in those. Pay attention to your dreams. If you have a dream journal, make sure you're writing stuff down. Go back and read through your dream journal. Work with tarot cards, whatever calls to you at this time. And if you are like a creative or artistic or hoping to get an artistic impulse of some kind, this Neptune retrograde energy can be really good for that. So look for some artistic inspirations between like June 24th and June 27th. But then the one thing to watch out for when Neptune goes retrograde is a heightened chance for illusion and deception. That can be self-deception or outside deception. So just, if you have conversations this week, or you hear or read about information this week and you feel confused about it, or it doesn't sit right with you, I would say give it a couple days, and then in the week of June 28th, try to revisit those conversations, or try to find some clarity, ask some follow-up questions, etc. Because this week, especially around June 25th, you might not be getting the whole story, or you might not be seeing things totally clearly, and that's okay. And then moving right along, we kind of go through the end of June, which is a little quieter, thankfully. And then on July 9th, we arrive at the new moon in Cancer. So this new moon will be at 18 degrees of the sign of Cancer. New moons are a fabulous time for setting intentions. So again, set intentions around self-care, around your living space, around your family, around your emotional processing and emotional healing, because Cancer is such an emotional sensitive sign. So all those things can be great to set intentions around. And I think it'll be nice. We have a positive angle from Neptune at the new moon, which will give us a heightened sense of intuition and perceptiveness, and it'll give us like creative visions and dreams and daydreams to help us set intentions. And we have a positive thing happening from Uranus too, which is kind of an energy of like, it gets us motivated, it's forward thinking, it'll make us want to shake things up so we can get rid of old stuff and be better at setting intentions and creating and manifesting new stuff. So I think that is gonna look very nice for the new moon in Cancer on July 9th. So there you have it. That is some major astrological events of this season. I wish you all a wonderful Cancer season. Good luck with the week of June 21st. I want everyone to just like lay low and stay calm as much as possible. And as always, if you have any questions, you can connect with me on Instagram. My handle is @the_astro_yogi. See you soon.